If you've ever fallen out with someone who was your best friend, what was it over? He turned his life around. He almost killed himself in a car wreck driving drunk. Then, his fiancée got pregnant. He sobered up quick. I was still running and gunning. When he re-evaluated his priorities, there was no room for someone like me who was sure to get him in trouble again. Now that I'm sober, I'm really glad he made the choices he did. I miss you, bro. Hope you and the family are doing okay. He got really religious to the point of extremism. It happened so fast that I thought it was prank. No conversation, no reasoning helped. He stopped listening to music, started to tell us we're on the wrong path, and became more and more secluded. I tried my best to remain friends with him even though we became complete opposites of each other. I'm atheist. Until one day he came back from studying abroad for a year. I heard he got married, so I congratulated him and asked him when we'll have the pleasure to meet his wife. He told me, why would you meet her? She's my wife, you have no business talking to her. That's when I realized that the person I grew up listening to Pearl Jam with had completely gone. Best friend of over a decade. Thought my husband was hot, made a play for him, telling him that I didn't need to know. He put her in her place and he told me about it. Had a rather mild conversation about how sad it was, and I've not seen or heard from her since. You have a good husband. Money. He was a close friend for about a decade, but he was perpetually broke. Poor money management exacerbated by alcohol, cigarette, and other substance addictions. Not because he didn't earn anything, and was in the habit of calling me at odd hours whenever he needed to borrow cash. So this one time he calls and it was late and I answered what in a gruff tone because I was exhausted. He was taken aback and said, "Why are you so upset? Geez, just go to heck," and he hung up. At that point I felt bad because maybe he wasn't going to ask for money. So I called him back and said, "You woke me up so I was groggy." Then he proceeded to ask me for money. At that point I said, "I knew you were going to ask for money and that's why I sounded irritated." I told him I was sick of getting calls like this, especially late at night. At that point he blew up at me and told me to frick off and that I've never been a friend to him. The next day he sent me a long rambling email saying that he doesn't think he should be friends with a washed up loser like me. I sent him a short reply back saying that I accept his unfriend request. That was about 10 years ago now. I've since moved away from where he lives. He tried to contact me once since then, late at night of course, but I didn't answer. I love that you called him back to know what the call was really about. You were still open to listen to him if he needed to talk, and that's great. His ego couldn't handle the notion that someone could find me attractive and not him, despite him being better looking by most standards. We happened to meet the same girl independently. When he tried to make a move on her, he got shut down. I met her at a separate party and we hit it off. After we started dating seriously, he passive-aggressively ostracized me from our group of longtime friends. Row. His girlfriend kissed me. I stopped it but had to tell him. It's been 18 years and he still thinks I did it to hurt him, when in reality she jumped me. Similar situation. Her husband hit on me and she blamed me for it. I found out later through mutual friends this was not the first, nor the last time it happened. First one was my fault. We had been friends since we were little kids. I started living with my girlfriend at the time and pretty much ignored everyone. Part of that was because she used to get pee at me when I would talk to other people. So he called me a few times and I never called him back. I've tried apologizing several times and he ignores me. The other guy, we were friends since we were little kids as well. He stole a couple of my girlfriends in middle school. But whatever, it's not a big deal. After high school, I met someone who I really liked. He thought she was attractive, so he tried hitting on her and hooking up with her. One night I was supposed to go to his house and hang out. He invited her as well, knowing that I liked her. He spent the entire night trying to hook up with her. She wasn't interested and left with me. I was with this woman for a few years and he used to hit on her. I got sick of it and we stopped hanging out. He told me that he was in love with me. I told him I just didn't feel the same way. We stayed friends for a while, but it was never the same. I told her I was gay, which she was kind of okay with, until I admitted I didn't fancy her. I said I didn't think of her like that, which apparently was incredibly insulting of me to say. What do you mean I am not hot? You like girls? I am a girl, so I must be hot for you. A few weeks after my mother passed, I was still in shock. This resulted in me being quiet and never enthusiastic. This bothered my friend because I was always quick to laugh and up for a good time. He said I was using her death as an excuse for my behavior. Got in my car and never talked to him again. I really wish I punched his punk butt now. He started doing Oxycontin, and so did the new crowd he started hanging out with. Then it escalated to H. I was done after that. It's sad when it happens, but sometimes cutting them out of your life is the best thing you can do. She got addicted to Oxy. Found out that I had unknowingly purchased stolen goods from her. This was before I knew she was a junkie. I felt like complete crap and gave the stolen things back to their original owners. It ended up costing me upwards of $200, which I of course will never see again. When she first ended up out on the streets, I offered her a ride to the grocery store to buy her some dinner or snacks, and instead she asked me for $100 cash. Frick that. Thank you so much for returning the stolen goods. You are a very good person. She turned to her church every time she got into trouble. Crack, two unplanned pregnancies with 2 different one-night stands, and some legal trouble. And every time she started going back to church, she stopped talking to me because I was a terrible influence on her. I never did drugs and had a stable relationship with the same guy for 8 years and a clean record, so it was never clear on how I influenced her in a negative way. We were best friends for 20 years and now we are just acquaintances on Facebook. She sent me a message before I got married telling me that I was going to heck for living with my boyfriend before marriage. I told her the sex was too amazing to stop living in sin. Haven't said a word to each other since. You should have replied with, said the woman with the 2 bastard kids. Wait, that's assuming she kept them. Oh well, the same works with abortions. Churches tend to frown upon those as well. She spent years talking crap about me and making up rumors. When I called her out on it, she cried and claimed that I'd been trying to make her miserable for years, because the entire freaking world revolves around her. I majored in economics because I wanted to make more money than she would with PR. I got a rental house for $50 a month cheaper and it was standalone, because I wanted her to feel crappy about her duplex. I offered to help her get a job where I worked since she hated the job she already had. She accepted the job but told everyone I helped her get it because I wanted to assert my dominance. I started dating a guy that was quite cute and a former football player, and I did so because I wanted her to feel like her pudgy boyfriend wasn't good enough. My parents invited her to the beach with us because they wanted to show off how they had more money than hers. Not true. My parents just seemed to like me more than hers liked her and wanted me to have a friend at the beach. That was 2 hours away. It's not like we went on some extravagant thing. I got a new car because hers was crappy, not because my power steering stopped working and I needed to get to school. I started working out daily to make her feel like crap about her body, not because I was sick and tired of being on the sidelines with asthma-stunted lungs. I got a dog because I wanted to show that I had more time and money, otherwise I would have gotten a cat like she did. What exactly? I went to Disney World with her roommate because we wanted to exclude her, even though she was invited but never asked for the time off to go. The list just goes on and on. She can never take responsibility for herself or understand that other people are just out there living their life for them, not for her. I felt bad for her when I first met her. It seemed like her family was just mean to her. They weren't. She spun everything to match her victim story. They tried to include her in things, but she would flip out that her mom took just her to dinner and then the next day took her sister to get her nails done. While former friend was in class, they didn't include her, so they hated her, even though she didn't care that her sister wasn't included on dinner. Sad thing is, her family is pretty nice and treat her way better than she treats them. A Pokemon card I found in the mall. He said he found it. His dad was the tiebreaker. Gave it to him. It was a holo Ninetales. Sad. We had a piano student steal a holo Charizard from my brother. His mom was told but just asked him and he said that he didn't. That card was worth a lot and I hate that kid for that. My brother cried and cried. So sad. He was told to stop wandering the house but would go to use the bathroom and finally mom had enough and told his mom to stop bringing him. We were best friends for I'd say 10 years. We'd hang out every week or every other week. He moves off to go to school and meets a girl there who he proposes to. But that wasn't really the issue. My thought was, oh hey, he'll probably ask me to be his best man. We've been best friends since we were small. Instead he's got some new best friend he made at university and asks him to be his best man. I wasn't even considered as a groomsman. It may sound selfish but that hurt. It's one of his most significant events in his lifetime. We'd both called each other our best friends through pretty much our entire lives and I wasn't even considered significant enough to be acknowledged. I only got an invite to his wedding because his mother invited me. I denied it as it was a few provinces away and the whole circumstance made me feel very awkward. I haven't talked to him since and he hasn't bothered trying to talk to me. Since almost all the other comments here are blaming the other person, I'll share mine. Not my best friend but close. I threw a birthday party for him and he got really angry about it and refused to come to it. I got furious about it and drunkenly yelled at him over the phone because I thought it was crazy to not want to celebrate your own birthday since he likes being at other people's birthday parties just fine and seems to have a great time. It turns out he secretly really hated celebrating his birthday because his dad was never there for his birthdays as a kid. Haven't really spoken since and it's been almost 3 years. Figured I would add my own experience as you guys shared yours. I was best friends with this girl for around 3 years. She even left her job to come and work at the same place as me. This is where things slowly went downhill. We ended up spending so much time together inside and outside of work and even formed a little group of friends made up of people from work. I ended up getting together briefly with one of the guys in the group on the DL and even though we agreed to keep things hush hush, I told my best friend. She went ballistic. I had no clue she would react like that. I really would have kept my mouth shut had I known. Anyway, her reaction just came across to me as pure jealousy, even though she had her own boyfriend that she'd been with for a year or so. She put it down to the fact that I'd messed up the friendship group, in her eyes, and that she didn't want her two best friends hooking up cause it was weird. FF to a work party she tells everyone the secret and ends up confessing her feelings to him resulting in him pushing me away and choosing her. Now her and I just awkwardly avoid contact at work. He left an imprint of his butt in crap on the toilet in his apartment and his room smelled like masturbation and dirty laundry. I asked him nicely to take care of these things and he didn't do it, so I eventually yelled at him and told him he wasn't wanted if he was going to keep our apartment that way. He moved out pretty soon after. This was actually a best friend that I hooked up with his now wife, who at that time was a friend of mine. His wife turned out to be incredibly jealous and possessive. She wouldn't allow him to see anyone unless she came along with him. I couldn't hang out with him and have a guy's night or anything. I told him about it but he didn't want to make his wife upset. Makes sense to me that he doesn't want to make his wife upset. But we couldn't be the friends that we always were because his wife was possessive over everything he did. He cut me out of my friend group and got them to block me on Facebook. Then he talked crap about me thinking I wouldn't find out. I knew all along. The ravages of time. We developed different interests. We made different friends. We never really stopped being friends. We just drifted apart. She's my husband's ex-girlfriend. We all went to high school together. While they were dating, her family threatened him, saying things like, "You are threatening her place in our family." She was Mormon. He isn't. Her mom tried to run him over with her car, etc. Long story short, she dumps him. She tried to do it over IM. He called her a coward and made her at least respect him enough to call him. Years later, my husband and I start dating. Former best friend is told. I asked if she was okay with it, lol. And she told me yeah, he's a great guy. You two will be so happy together. Suddenly, she unfriends then blocks him on Facebook. Then she calls me up and says she is getting married and wants me to be a bridesmaid. Before I say yes, I talk to my husband about it. He wants me to let her know where I'm at in life before I drop over $1,000. Plane ticket for a cross-country flight, rental car, wedding gift, etc. So I email her and tell her that my, then future, husband and I are living together, and I've left the Mormon church. Husband wanted me to tell her so that he knew I would have an ally in Utah and wouldn't be kicked out of the reception by her parents who still hate him. She flipped out, claimed that my husband had been abusive to her, stalked her to the point of getting a restraining order against him. LOL nope. We checked. Not to mention my husband has never lived in Utah. She claimed that I had turned my back on God, on her, on my family, and that she can't believe that I had given up that which is most precious before marriage. Jokes on her. I know what my husband and she did together while they were dating. I stopped taking to her for 2 years. She actually showed up to my sister's wedding about a year and a half ago, with a gift for my unborn child, acting like nothing had happened. Before we parted, she again accused my husband of stalking her and her roommates, calling her old roommate so much for info on her that they had to change their cell numbers, and that I could ask them if I needed proof. We haven't spoken since, and I don't plan to. I'm sick of her accusing my husband of crimes that keep getting worse every time we talk. As a Mormon, I'm face palming hard right now. I'm glad she's gone from your life. Although we are still friends, my former best friend got married to an awful beast of a woman, and we've been drifting apart ever since. She is an obtuse, religious zealot who lives to give unsolicited advice to everyone. She's an anti-vaxxer, and got offended when I mocked people who think the earth is only 10,000 years old. The worst part is that he gets sucked into her nonsense, and while he was once a really intelligent guy, he has gotten progressively dumber since being married. I lost a friend under eerily similar circumstances. Super conservative religious nut that he fell head over heels for. He dumped all his old friends though, not just me. He hit his girlfriend for taking his car down the street. When some of our friends went over to talk with him about it, he beat up his younger brother for driving his car to get a car part for his own car. Something tells me the guy does not like other people driving his cars. She accused me of trying to flirt with and steal her boyfriend to all our friends after I told her that her actions on a specific night really hurt me. She called me a crazy manipulative princess and tried to isolate me from everyone. I have never had interest in her now ex-boyfriend. Her boyfriend and I were good friends, but only because we worked together and had tons in common. She still believes she was faultless for what she did and that I am evil. He broke up with her because she was being such a crappy person too, and most of our friends believed me over her, so they think she's completely crazy. I suffered through an awful abusive relationship and confided in her about how disgusting he made me feel. How it hurts to see other couples because I still hear my ex in my head telling me he loves me right before he tells me I'm a heartless bee for not spending more time with him. That is going out to visit my friends for one night and not constantly texting him. 10 years and she did me like that. Screw that. We went to a club with her other friend. The two of them who drove went to see two guys they hooked up with the week prior. So there I was a fifth wheel until 5 AM, where I finally told them I needed to get home because I had class at 8 AM. They talked crap about me the entire drive home like I wasn't even there. Frick them. It's happened twice, and still eats at me. Best friends. 4 of us. Since middle school, all of us went to very different and far away colleges. We'd Skype a little bit, mostly texted and used Facebook, and hung out a ton when all in town. I started to see them less but found them posting their adventures together on Facebook. I tried to contact them many times and they made excuses at first, but ultimately ignored me. It all culminated in one of them getting married with another as the maid of honor, and I wasn't invited at all. This is mostly why I no longer use Facebook. Second was a friend who went on a long overseas trip through her college and it changed her. She really found herself, which is great, but made new friends and they kind of worshipped her. I told her I was concerned about her ego after some disagreements and she ended our friendship right there. I wasn't the only friend that she burned bridges with because of this, but she and I were best friends of like 5 years at that point. I do realize this was equally my fault, but that doesn't stop the hurt it caused. I've got 2. One is that he turned from a anger issue infested high schooler to an adult that verbally abuses his friends and can't play a game of D&D without going off on them. He's now got 3 kids by 2 different mothers. He has had an alcohol problem. He is currently in prison serving 2 years because when he and his most recent ex were blackout drunk, he raped her. I don't know if I trust either him or his ex, But if the defense is you don't remember either and I'm not the sort of guy to do that, then I don't care. Done. The other guy I hadn't seen for a little while. Just normal life circumstances. We get back together and I'm trying to show him 2 things I'm really proud of. 1. My website. Finally up and running. 2. My child. Finally got the okay from the wife to tell more than just family. I say it out loud and it's like he doesn't even hear me. Just keeps talking about whatever awesome e-sig mod he just got. I didn't maintain contact after that. It was a culmination of different things, but the final straw was when she ripped up a poster she had bought me of some boy band I liked at the time. She thought it was funny to make me think she had given me a gift, only to take it away once I got excited about it. It was like 6th grade. BTW. I made a mistake of inviting a friend of mine to an event but forgot that someone she hated was there as well. She and her best friend were really pee about it and essentially cut me out of their lives because I was a toxic influence. There is more to it than that, but I won't go into extreme detail. My ex was my best friend. I told her everything that was on my mind out of the trust I had for her. We broke up when she had to leave to travel for work. I was okay with that, wished her the best and hoped to remain best friends. A few weeks later, she calls me in the middle of the night and keeps me up all night telling me that she never really cared about me, but was just using me for a place to stay, my prescription drugs, and to not feel alone. She also used all the insecurities and faults I confided with her to break my spirit by putting me down for all of them and calling me every insult under the sun. Now, I still try to be friendly towards her, but she still doesn't see how her actions hurt me nor understands how I can possibly still be affected by it a few months later. It's not the kind of hurt you can just shrug aside and move on from in a matter of days. Instead, it's the kind of break of trust that affects all other friendships or interests. How the heck do I begin trusting someone after the last person I trusted completely used that trust to hurt me in such a way? Don't get me wrong. I still put myself out there and make attempts every day at finding something better. Just, that fear is still there overshadowing everything that I do. Don't let that awful human get you down. That's her crap, not yours. People who are healthy and happy don't make other people feel like that. Your happiness is your best revenge. Walk away and never look back. My friend and I talked about opening a business together sometime after we graduated. I was unable to find work in that specific subfield when I got out and he did. He made a new BFF at work and started the business with him shortly after I got back into the subfield that divided us. Still love the guy to death but just feel like I have a hard time talking to him because of bitterness jealously that he didn't wait for me. She could never have a mature, adult conversation or take responsibility when she was wrong. I let it slide in high school because we were young after all, but I got sick of it during college. I'd say something like, hey, when you did this I felt really left out and crappy. I'd really appreciate if you maybe didn't do that next time, and she'd get extremely upset and tell me it was all in my head and I needed to stop causing problems. Then she'd bring up my recent breakup to try and distract and hurt me. Once we got to 3 strikes of her doing that, I was done. Stopped talking to her and eventually deleted her from all social media. He reconnected with a long lost love. He had a GF at the time. They'd been together a few years, so he decided to just email her that it was over. I found out later it was an email she never used, so she didn't find out till later what happened. The new GF moved from Nebraska to live with us. She just smoked weed and watched TV all day and didn't get a job for like 3 months. She was also legit crazy. She'd cry all the time, blame crap on her endometriosis, and just generally be a worthless annoying bee. My friend and I had to front most of the bills, and tensions were building. I finally blew up after he called me out on having friends over late while they were trying to sleep. So I'll let him have it, saying how he has no right to tell me anything since his mooch GF has just been taking up space in our apartment with no job and no desire to get one. He said that that's his problem, not mine, except it was because I still had to pay the difference most of the time. So we had a crazy argument and almost got in a fist fight. It all ended because I just wanted to know if they were gonna move out, break the lease. So I downloaded a text bomb app to spam him 100s in like 10 seconds. We had one last confrontation, and we broke our lease like 7 months early. Luckily that didn't bite me in the butt. Last I heard is they moved back to Nebraska, had some kids, and went crazy religious. Sounds like Nebraska. He started acting stupid over the course of dating someone in our group of friends. They broke up, and now he's just a prick. After 15 years of friendship, I went through a horrible situation with my husband. Drugs, infidelity, etc. Anytime I tried to talk to her about it, I got wow and colon replies. I dropped everything for this woman so many times, going to hospitals, late night calls when she was in a crisis, wiring her money when she overdrew her account, her divorce. Paid 98% of the time when we went out to eat. One day I just said, what the frick am I doing here? She was a complete narcissist, all along. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.